El Chupacabra and the Halloween Thanksgiving Christmas Caper. I've been around a long time, like a long time, as in I'm basically immortal, I think. I've seen things change a lot over the centuries. Humans used to only live half as long as they do now. All they had to do was start using soap every day. Why aren't more schools and streets named after Pasteur? I digress. You see, I am a Chupacabra. Yes, I'll say it again. I am a Chupacabra. I know. All you've ever heard is the goat sucker thing, the Latin boogeyman. Well, what can I say? The world wasn't always so civilized, and goat is delicious. I have to eat too. There is so much more to my race, though, than stealing humans' livestock and giving children nightmares. We were already old when your race was figuring out how to stop getting eaten by cougars and living in trees. We have philosophy, a fairly benign religion, and as usual, a stable but unusual economy that's allowed us to figure out how to stop fighting each other and focusing on bettering ourselves. Plus, we are very lucky. Right now, I'm on my way to the local megastore. You know the one. If you don't have one in your hometown, you probably live off the grid, and your town consists of nothing more than a church and a bar. Yes, I'm going shopping. It's October 17th, and there are only 71 days till Christmas. The interesting thing about being lucky all of a long existence is that it affords you time to consider that luck. What is it? What does it mean? How does it work? Well, like I mentioned, my people are fairly advanced and decently smart. So we have not only advanced our own science in our own pursuits, but have been savvy enough to pay attention to and piggyback on the work of you little clever bald monkey people. Quantum physics is fascinating. So why, you ask, am I going to shoplift out of a megamart? Oh wait, I didn't mention that part yet. Sorry. So yeah, I'm going shopping, but I don't plan on trading the merchandise I take for legal currency at the store's last point of sale. Why would I do such a thing, you ask? Well, in 2 words. Probability manipulation. Maybe a 3rd word. Destiny? I'm going to steal stuff not because I need to, but because I know I'm supposed to. All of my possible futures have converged to a single time and place from which my continuing existence branches out afterward. So basically, if I don't show up at this store within the next 5 minutes and start stealing, there's a high probability that I will soon somehow cease to exist right afterward. So steal I will. I pull into the parking lot with 3 minutes to spare. I knew I'd make it in time, as I used my luck, or as quantum physics might say, probability tampering, to change traffic lights and patterns to my advantage, and didn't even come close to getting hit by a meteor in one of those ironic less than 0.000001 chances quantum physics is so fond of. Man, that's weird. And man, it can really screw you over if you don't pay attention. Whew. As I enter the building and say howdy do to the door greeter, a wave of sound and smell wash over me with the power and consistency of a psilocybin/cocaine high. My mind and body begin to thrum with esoteric energy and a wee bit of excitement for what might happen next. Yup, I was definitely in the right place. You see, my race is able to look and sound like human beings, but we aren't. We smell, we taste, we see, we hear, we touch, and yet we're not quite like you. So no one noticed me as I walked into the store, not any more than they notice anyone else. If I took my sunglasses off, they might freak out, but I didn't, so they didn't. Okay, so where to start? I was in no hurry at this point. I was where I was supposed to be, so I figured I might as well wander around a bit, stake out the terrain, as it were. I'd know what I was there for when I saw it. So I walked the aisles. I took in the frightening abundance and overwhelming variety of the merchandise on display, each shelf laid out perfectly to entice want in the shopper, and the inevitable conclusion of them buying it and taking it home, whether they needed it or not. I watched the people as they made their selections. Their eyes, a combination of greed, joy, and fear in equal measure. People moving and shaping their environment by participating in the great endeavor that is consumption. I made my way through section after section, sports, hardware, grocery, until I came to the place I was there to see. The garden center, that's where it was. Half again as big as the rest of the store combined, it was a vast labyrinth of pallets, plants, and outdoor accoutrements of all shapes and sizes. Despite such a wealth of visual stimuli, my gaze was immediately drawn to the front of the section, right outside the exit gate. Have you ever seen something that is familiar and ordinary, and suddenly have reality twist about 30 degrees or so, and then you perceive that same vision in a totally different and meaningful way? It's a trait my species shares with humanity, a perfect alignment of intellect, emotion, and body. In other words, head, heart, and gut, that allows us to make leaps of inspiration with but simple pieces of information. This is what I saw. 6 giant inflatable holiday icons sat prominently displayed for all to see, lined up in a row like ancient idols to be worshipped. The air compressor in each one gave the characters shape and made them ripple and move, giving the cheap illusion of life. What I saw shocked and horrified me at first, as the implications and realizations hit me one after another, like baseballs thrown out of one of those machines when you go to the batting cages. Thump, thump, thump. I don't have anything against your human holidays, if that's what you're thinking. They serve an important purpose, no doubt. No, what triggered this epiphany was something deceivingly simple. I mentioned this was October 17th, right? 71 days before Christmas, 40 days before Thanksgiving, and a mere 14 days before Halloween. This was the problem. Lined up in a row, with only 3 feet between each one, were the following: a witch on a broomstick, a jack-o'-lantern, a white sheet ghost, a turkey, a Christmas tree, Old St. Nick himself, and a manger scene. Do you get it? Do you see? If not, no worries. It's a weird and difficult way to see the world. Besides, I will explain. It was like everything else I'd seen in my journey through the store, an obnoxious and overabundant amount of temptation to overextend oneself through the collection of material possession. Don't get me wrong, I like stuff. In fact, I have some pretty cool stuff. But it's nothing I couldn't do without. I don't define myself by as fragile and temporary a concept as ownership. Yet, so many of you try and fill the hole you find in yourself with possession and a delusion that it should be celebrated and applauded. Those giant inflatable holiday symbols smooshed all together and stepping on each other's months were a perfect alignment, or perhaps a perfect storm, of an analogy to describe the unbridled want and need for ownership. The stores just couldn't wait to inundate us with all 3 possession-driven traditions instead of the decent pace of one at a time. No. Has to come rush, 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 from one event to another at breakneck speed in hopes that it will convince us our lives have hope and purpose. Why should anyone focus on the fascinating process of figuring ourselves out and understanding our place in this reality, not when it's so easy and immediately gratifying to give and take? Yes, even giving can be a misguided pursuit, as it encourages want of possession. Why not just make one mega holiday if this isn't the case? Set aside just one day for unreasonable and justified hope, for the act of basic greed. Nope. People need a continuing fix time and time again to keep them moving forward. And yet never do they get ahead in a spiritual, metaphysical, or even scientific way. Hollow thanks Christmas Day, maybe. Hollow thanks Christ Day. Thanks Hollow Jesus Day. I don't know. Gift giving, hollow thanks, whatever. Top your tree with a ghost and put the turkey underneath. Whatever you want. Adapt to a higher standard by letting go of what you've been taught about the reality of temporarily using objects in your environment until you don't need them or no longer have access to them. This is the reality of the concept of ownership. So that is what occurred to me when I gazed upon those terrible, air-fed holiday leviathans. This took all of a moment, and then my perspective shifted back to normal. Sir, a young employee interrupted my reverie. Can I help you find something? I smiled at the boy and showed a little fang as I pushed my sunglasses down to expose my piercing red eyes. The boy gasped and took a step back, frantically looking around for help. But we were alone. So I slowly walked over to a display of cacti and touched several until one of them poked my finger, drawing a bead of blood. I picked this one up before I turned back to the boy and answered him. No, I've got what I came for, I told him, and with that I strode out with my new plant in hand, and without paying. I told you I was going to steal something.